Every empire that thought it had finally hacked immortality ended up inventing a ritual to remind itself of death. The Romans had a simple one. When the victorious generals rolled into city on their chariots, crowds cheering, banners flying, ego touching the sky, there was a slave standing right behind them, whispering in their ear, "Memento mori." Remember, you must die. The whole point was to stop the power from believing its own propaganda. Pakistan has exactly done the opposite. Here, the moment someone tastes the power, the system doesn't whisper memento mori. It hands them a constitutional amendment, a new uniform, a lifetime extension, and says, "Sir, aap to amar hai." Welcome to Fourth Floor Post English, weekly analysis of Pakistani politics. We have now reached the stage where 27th Amendment isn't a rumor. It's an architecture. A 5-star Chief of Defence Forces who swallows the old 4-star structure. No separate Army Chief and Chairman Joint Chief posts. Just one person at the top. Even commanding the naval and air forces. So no concept of any establishment. With everyone else pushed down to just 3 stars. Lifetime title for Field Marshal and lifetime immunity and no removal from services until impeachment. Impeachment for military officer. Can you imagine that? Lifetime protection for president and the constitutional code that looks and sounds like a code but is born with one job: to interpret every future conflict in favor of the same power that just wrote it into existence. This isn't modernization. This is Viagra for a panicked power structure. You can hear it in their tone now. No more defensive explanations. No more nervous jokes. Just straight, flat arrogance. And Parliament is now costume department, a place where parliamentarians with elastic pants go to pretend they are relevant while voting themselves out of the story. One confesses on the floor that his entire family was picked up. Another admits there was a pressure. And all of them knew that a senior colleague has died, Senator Irfan Siddiqui. And his death, and even his death, became a scheduling issue. Janaza baad mein, amendment first. Tell me again why these people deserve the word respectable or the honorable. These all parliamentarians. Let's be honest about their motives. Nobody is Nanna Kaka here. On the political sides, why did Nawaz Sharif, Bilawal, Maryam, everyone lined up behind the structure that makes their own future irrelevant? Not because they are stupid, because they are gambling. In their heads, the story goes like this. First, the establishment and the people will collide head-on. Then, let there be accidents, economic, political, and maybe even physical. A desired accident. And then, maybe when the dust will settle after the desired accident, then maybe there is a chance for Maryam and Bilawal. They know all of this leads to dictatorship now, but they are not supporting the dictatorship despite knowing the risk. They are supporting the dictatorship because they are counting on the risk or the desired accidents. And in the middle of that calculation, there is one target. The Tisri Soch, the third ideology. Not just Imran Khan as a person, but the idea that elections can throw up something unpredictable. That the vote can challenge the status quo and that the resistance is allowed to organize outside the script. That idea is what they are trying to kill. Not defeat, kill. Because you can't kill the idea, you kill the person. Hence, the desired accident. You heard it in Raja Parvez Ashraf's threatening speech. You saw it in Khwaja Asif's nostalgia for Zia's unseen consequences. You are hearing every day from Faisal Wavda or numerous others. You felt it in the collective silence when KPK, TTAP and ordinary citizens said this amendment is person-specific and system-shattering, but nobody cares about the morality. Nobody wants to share the room with third force and they want to go to any lens. The Pakistan People's Party and PMLN are not afraid of the dictatorship. They are afraid of the competition. They have no cards. Maryam and Bilawal only see their future after the desired accident. So they are hoping for very specific ending. Khan factor finished. The third idea buried, uniform eventually sacrificed as a scapegoat. And it's not uniform. It's always the person who gets sacrificed. And then Maryam Bilawal politics may be relaunched under the new Pakistan season 9. Same actors, new graphics, same script. On the other side, we also need to stop using the word establishment like it's 1999. An institution thinks in decades. This structure is thinking in notifications. Look at the design, a 5-star CDF, no independent 4-star space left. This new Commander National Strategic Command post would likely be 3-star too. Maybe 4-star, but it is an irrelevant post when it comes to power circle. This post is directly plugged into the hybrid system with duties defined by the Prime Minister who already takes dictation. A Vice Chief of Army Staff. Interesting clause. Not necessarily for today, but as a future escape hatch when this over-centralization starts to choke its own architects. This is not about a long-term doctrine. This is about one circle of people writing themselves permanent and then trying to manage all the future betrayals in advance. You can see the cracks already. Resignation by the honorable judges, Justice Mansoor Ali Shah, Justice Atar Minallah. Angry whispers by the Mutassireen, because Mutassireen are not only judges, those who feel sidelined inside the system, other than judges, after these amendments. See, petty behaviors over titles. Chief Justice Yahya Afridi is more worried about keeping his Chief Justice of Pakistan title until he is on the post. He wants that written on his visiting card until he is not retired. He doesn't care about the constitution being rewritten around him. All he cares about is title. See, if this was confident, united establishment, it wouldn't need immunity clauses. Taumar Vardi, a tailor-made coat. You only pour this much legal concrete when you are terrified about the storm you yourself are about to bring. Now look at the chain of laws. They didn't just pass 27th Amendment. They did 3 things back to back. 27th Amendment, centralize power, create CDF post, immunities, constitutional court, then Army Act changes. Extend tenure via notification because new post now, so new notification now. So log the 5-year timeline before the end of November. And keep all the posts to yourself, including Navy, including Air Force, everything. And finally, practice and procedure changes. Quietly kill the constitutional bench mechanism that could have turned into the full court fight someday and bring the constitutional code. Then comes the constitutional code, marked as a reform, designed as a farewell. Tomorrow, when a province challenges over-centralization, who will interpret this dispute? The same Sarkari court created by the same amendment that caused the dispute. Bilawal asked us to be happy because the Sindhi judge will be the part of the constitutional bench. Really, sir? You think that works? If the petition comes to divide the provinces, what will this Sarkari court interpret? So where can the resistance come from? Inside the system, Supreme Court, neutered. Constitutional Court, manufactured for their own use. Parliament, complicit. Media already had a funeral for its own dignity. Which leaves only one pressure point. Lawyers and street power. TTAP, bar councils and provincial bars. If they move, it becomes a fight outside the system and a unified fight. And that is exactly what this entire structure is designed to avoid. They want protest, but only the kind that can be labeled terrorism for their own benefit. They want anger, but only from the regions they think are manageable by the force. KPK, Balochistan, Sindh, they wouldn't challenge Punjab. They would, but not that much. They want fight, but one where they choose the battlefield. They want battlefield, the judge and the duration, everything. And that's why the KPK is being turned into the first theatre. Listen carefully to the recent language. After the blast in Islamabad, Interior Minister doesn't just condemn terrorists. He turns to the camera and lectures whole Pakhtun race. He was asking the whole Pakhtun race to not stand with terrorism. Really? Whole race? This is not the slip of tongue. It's a blueprint. Attacks in Delhi, attacks in Islamabad, attacks in Wana, threat alerts across major cities, Section 144 in place around Pakistan, media running terrorism graphics, and now add Mohsin Naqvi's framing. Choice of words. Look at the Peshawar High Court's order on use of state resources in the protest. Look at the pressure on CM Afridi by abducting 2 PTM workers from the very peace jirga CM KPK called for peace in KPK. Constant hinting that PTI is TTP's political wing. Put them together and what do you get? Governor rules in KPK, backed by new constitutional court, justified on security grounds, marketed as a national duty. And behind that, economic choke via Afghan trade, social fracture by mixing ethnicity with terrorism, a test case for limited martial law that can later be expanded towards the whole country. And by that way, you also be in good books of America because you're slowing the Chinese growth when you are keeping Afghanistan and Pakistan busy in this terrorism fiasco. The illusion in Islamabad is simple. Punjab is quiet, Sindh is manageable, Balochistan is already under control. So if KPK burns, it's a local problem. That is exactly what every state told itself before it discovered it was sitting on a national fracture, not a regional nuisance. Ayub thought East Pakistan was a distance problem. Zia thought Sindh was a discipline problem. Musharraf thought Balochistan was a law and order problem. Now they are treating KPK and Pakhtun belt as a narrative problem. Write terrorists enough times and add a few explosions and the country will clap for governor's rule. Until, of course, it doesn't. Look at the timing. Exactly when judges are resigning, lawyers start to stir. Amendments are becoming law, new posts are being crowded out, and rumors of military trial in Khan are intensifying. Faiz Hameed connection is being stressed again, and suddenly the main news on every channel is Bushra Bibi, peers, predictions, General Faiz, spiritual manipulation, marriage drama. This Owen Bennett Jones, we all know which stories he covered in Pakistan. He used to cover stories for MQ. Those were right, these are wrong. See, old stories all recycled with new spice. Ask a simple question, why now? If the goal was accountability, you had years to do so. If the goal was to protect the state, these stories don't matter. Why now is because they matter for ego. This is pressure. Humiliate the spouse, make the marriage circus, signal to Khan, break his relationship, maybe your own case gets lighter. That's the signal to Khan. Because of the ego, because some general in the past used agencies to pull some other general down from his post who happened to be CDF now and all powerful right now, hence the ego. Fight between two generals exposing the whole agency issue, exposing the whole marriage. And finally, signal to the public. See, telling the people that he was played by the woman and an agency, so he deserved everything. Really, is that the justification? But here is what it actually exposes themselves. 1. Agency is willing to use a woman as a spiritual prop to control a sitting PM. 2. The same agency is now throwing her under the bus to settle personal scores between two generals, that too from the past. 3. A power structure so small, so insecure that it drags a private relationship into national debate just to scratch an old itch. You can call it in strategy, I call it cheap. And while this drama runs, the real machinery continues. The CDF notification any day, expect any day. This Commander National Security Command slot is waiting. Vice Chief of Army Staff clause will be hanging in the mid-air. This appointment is a bit tricky. This appointment is always tricky. It's like a future no confidence vote inside the establishment. Military trial for Khan is warming up in the background. We are sitting, I'm telling you, we are sitting between Zia and Yahya. On that thin line where dictatorship believes it's permanent and breakup believes it's impossible. And that is the most dangerous spot for any country. If you track our history, one pattern stands out. When overconfidence meets humiliation, we don't reform the system, we just change the face. Now that's a bit tricky part, what I'm about to say. Ayub created the mess that birthed Bangladesh. Yahya became the symbol of the collapse. Zia created the jihad infrastructure and ethnic fractures. His plane crashed, turned him into a closed chapter, while the system carried on. Musharraf rode 9/11, did every deal he wanted to protect himself. But when he became irrelevant or inconvenient, one uniform left and the establishment remained. The new design openly plans for the same exit ramp. Give one man all the power and maybe corrupt him along the way with all the power. Pack the constitution with immunities, centralize all commands, start to crush all the third forces, use judges, aka Constitutional Court. It wouldn't surprise me if someday Constitutional Court bans PTI as a political party and declares itself as a terrorist party. Push provinces to the edge in the name of stability, and when it inevitably blows, maybe accidents happen along the way in the interest of the nation, respecting the anger among people. Scapegoat, the same powerful man. Statute built again, chapter closed. System intact, damage may become permanent. See, that's the scapegoat formula. The risk this time is that they are not just playing with the province or a party. They are playing with the structure. Military hierarchy, provincial autonomy, judicial architecture, and a generation that has already watched one cycle of accident, apology, and repeat. You can write lifetime in the constitution. You cannot write forget into people's memory. So let's turn to the Roman chariot again. In Pakistan today, there is no slave whispering in the ear of power. There is only a chorus of courtiers screaming, आप ही पाकिस्तान हैं, आप ही जमहूरियत हैं, आप ही कौम है, आप ही सिस्टम है. So let me be, or let me do that slave's job for a second. To the people who think every leak is now plugged, every judge is now manageable, every province is now adjustable, remember, memento mori. Remember, posts don't become permanent just because you add a fifth star. Remember, no immunity clause in the history has ever survived a truly angry street. To the politicians who think they can outsource the dirty work, wait for the accident and then walk back as a Democrats. Remember, you already held the funeral of your own politics the day you voted for the person's specific power. You signed your own irrelevance. Don't be surprised when the same people who abducted your families decided they no longer need you or need your votes either. To the judges and the lawyers still calculating, remember, when law becomes a prop, it stops protecting even its own authors. You don't have to be heroes. Just stop being comfortable with this system. And to all of us who kept saying nothing will change, remember that countries do not die in one day. They die in chapters. East Pakistan yesterday, Balochistan's alienation today, and KPK's turn being written as we speak. Memento mori is not just for the individuals. It's for the system that mistakes extension for immortality. The 27th Amendment, the CDF post, the Constitutional Code, the army of small pharaohs in the media and politics. All of this is one thing, a regime trying to outrun its own ending.